Welcome to 216, a Link to the Past Randomizer podcast. I am your host, fearagent. Today on the show, we've got Gylgamesh, runner-up in the main tournament. We did talk to Gamma when we brought the show back, but I thought it would be interesting to hear from Gylgamesh because he had an awesome run as well. And you're in for a treat. Gylgamesh is a really interesting guy, and was glad to get a chance to get to know him better. Someone that I didn't really know that well in the community. So yeah, really excited to get to that. Week one of the league is all wrapped up. Couple of 2-0 teams, Boingers in the Kakariko division at 2-0. Banana Brigade and Team Hime 2-0. Always a big fan of Team Hime. Been rooting for them for a long time, so it's cool to see them come out of the gates with those two victories. Don't forget to track us and 3 Off the Tee and TM32 God Route, all 2-0 in my division, the Skullwoods division. So that was pretty cool. And then another 3 2-0 teams, Agus Backup Dancers, Fear Funity, and Used Bow all made it out 2-0 of week one. So 80 key drop boots is over until the playoffs. I believe that's one of the modes that can be chosen in the playoffs. I should look at the rules. So co-op 80 key drop boots is a mode that you can choose duality, cross keys, and the randomizer. So all 4 of the weeks that we're running in the main season can be played in the playoffs. So if you liked 80 key drop boots, it'll be back for the playoffs. If you didn't, sorry, it'll be back for the playoffs. Yeah, experience went well for us. GMO and I ran game 1, and it was kind of a silly seed with, I want to say Samaria was at the top of Castle Tower or something. I can't remember now, but pretty silly. Both teams last locationed it. We just kind of got there first. And then Beer and GMO ran the second game. I didn't get to watch that, but we're able to get the win there as well. So yeah, excited to go into this second week with a couple victories. I'm playing the boss hunt mode, so we'll see how that goes. And then Beer is our other runner this week. So yeah, it's just fun to see the league races happening. Like, Speed Gaming and the league channels are kind of running nonstop with all the league races. And that's been fun. It's just fun to turn on Twitch and see league races happening pretty much around the clock. Just a fun time of the year. We'll see if any teams can remain undefeated going into week 3 after this boss hunt week. And then we head into another new mode for the league. That's co-op duality. And that's another interesting one. Done a bit of practice with Jammo on that one, and it's gone really well. So looking forward to that week. We'll be going against 2 Pearl 2 Furious that week, but one of the teams that's been around since the first season. So that's pretty cool. This week we were playing You Look Like You Could Use a Hook and Lamp. That's JJO, TJ Maelstrom, and Ahab. I'll be playing Ahab, and Beer will be playing against TJ Maelstrom. And I'll let you know next week how that goes. I should mention that we played against JKLOL week 1. And so going 2-0 against them felt pretty good because they're a good team. And we're working on something with JKLOL to hear their thoughts on their journey through the league season. So keep your eyes and ears peeled on the feed here for that. I don't know if it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly or what, but we are going to have some fun stuff with them sharing their thoughts on how their weeks go throughout the league this season. So yeah, check that out. Let's get to the interview with Gylgamesh. Great guy. Had a lot of fun talking with him. I think you'll enjoy it. So let's give it a listen. So when you were playing Gamachu and you got to the finals of the main tournament this year, did you predict yourself to be in the main tournament finals?
No, absolutely not. Not even close.
So when you went into the tournament, because I'm sure this is not your first tournament, what are expectations?
So this was my 3rd main tournament. The previous 2 years, I had made brackets and lost in the first round. So okay. I was just like, let me get 1 win in brackets, and I'll be pretty satisfied. And, I got the 1 win, and I was like, okay, well, maybe we can go one more. And that happened all the way up until the semifinals. It kept going. And then I was like, all right, well, there's no way I'm beating Zelga. So but you know what? I'm cool with the semifinals. That's way better than I expected. And then I somehow managed to get past that one too. So,
yeah, I mean, Zelga is just a beast, right? Like, how long have you been playing the game for?
Let's see. I started sometime in spring of 2011. So I guess it's been almost 4 years now.
2011 is a long time. 2021.
2021.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
I was playing the game before randomizer even existed.
Yeah, that was cool. Okay, so I'm sure, you've been a part of the community for that long now, of Zelga's reputation, right? Like, just how good of a runner he is. It's like, there's like no shame in losing to someone like Zelga, right? Like, he's just too good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was, for every match leading up to there, and I'm not trying to like poo-poo my other opponents, but I was like, I think I have a reasonable shot to win these matches up until Zelga won.
Yeah.
And then Zelda, I was like, probably not. I would have put myself at like 50-50 at least on all the other ones, and Zelga was like, I don't know, maybe there's like a 10% chance.
Right. Yeah. I'm just looking at the bracket here. Your first opponent was Sawyer. And again, that's a Sawyer. All of these runners are good, right? You can't make the top 64 without being pretty good at this game. So it's not a dig at any of the runners, but Sawyer, Nilsson Alex, it looks like was your next opponent. And then Zeruvian. Like, if you lost to them, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like, they're good runners.
Yeah.
You beating them is also not a surprise, right? Like, I feel like, these matches can kind of go any way.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like, and it's rando, weird things happen sometimes, but yeah, I felt like, hey, I have a fighting chance to win these matches at least.
Yeah. So you go 2-0 against Sawyer, 2-0 against Nilsson, 2-0 against Zeruvian. You got to be feeling good after that, right?
I was like, hey, if it ends here, that's great. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. And then he had a pretty epic set of matches against Killer App. I think I watched most of those races, and it felt like, again, it was going both ways. It really felt like
I definitely had luck on my side for that one, I think, because I should not have won that cross hunt against him.
Yeah. That's Rando, right? That's the kind of the joys and the terrible thing about Rando is winning and losing those games that you probably shouldn't have won or lost, but that's kind of the way it goes. So what is your feeling then as you go into face Zelga? You've only lost one race in four matches, right? And you're going against Zelga. I think Gamachu might have already been in the finals when you were.
Yeah, we were a little held up on the bottom half of the bracket, so we were. Yeah, Gamma was already waiting in the finals before me and Zelga even started our match.
Right. So you've got two like monsters in front of you, but you're kind of on house money at this point, right?
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna play Rando and see what happens. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe if I don't get lucky, then oh no, I lost this Zelga in the semifinals of the main tournament. Who cares? Right. So you go 2-1 against Zelga. So you play all three matches. It's recent, but it's been a bit. Do you recall how you were feeling after each game? Did you win the first one or? I think I lost the first one. Now I don't remember what order we played them in. I won the cross hunt and I won the open, which was game 3.
Okay.
I think we played Adkeys first and Zelga won that one.
Okay.
And then, the cross hunt was very close. I think it was like a 11-second difference or something like that. I had fallen on phase 4 of Ganon and I was like, oh, I just blew it. And still somehow managed to squeak that one out.
Oh man, I can't imagine what you feel like. Were you sweating when that happens, or do you just kind of
sweating the entire time? I was like looking at the race room and being like, normally I don't look at the race room, but for restream matches, I tend to because I don't want to like play for 15 minutes after my opponent finishes and leave everyone hanging.
Sure.
So I'm making my way through the last dungeon and staring at the race room and being like, he hasn't finished yet. Is there a chance here? And I'm on phase 4 again, and I'm like, wow, we might pull this off. And then I think I just got hit by a fire bat and got bounced or something like that. And I was like, well, you know what? I tried. It's over now. And then I finish, and then like 10 seconds later, Zelga finishes. I was like, oh my god,
that's insane. So you get past Zelga, and then I talked to Gamachu after he had won the finals on the show here. But Was there a feeling like, man, I'm gonna take this guy down?
I mean, it was
knock him down a peg. He needs it, right?
I would have loved to. I mean, me and Gamma have been like joking basically all year about playing each other. Me and Gamma have never had a one-on-one match prior to this.
Oh, okay.
And throughout most of the Cross Keys tournament this year, we had the same record, and we had been joking back and forth about getting matched up, and it never happened. And then we were joking about it through, the group reveal of main tournament, and Gamma likes to say I dodged him and all that nonsense. And we, joking like, oh, well, I'll see you in the finals. I'll see you in the finals, kind of thing. And I obviously Gamma. I assumed Gamma had a pretty good shot at making the finals. I was like, I knew that was never going to happen, but we would still joke about it, and to have it actually pan out that way was kind of funny. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, I was trash talking him the entire time, but I knew. I'm a realist. Like, I knew that I was a pretty big underdog in that match. Yeah. So
that's, again, to take nothing away from you, right? Like, Gamma is just unreal in the game. There's a couple of these runners that are just stupidly unreal in a random game, and
yeah, he's I know my execution is not as good as like the top tier runners, and I'm aware of that, and it's never going to be, and that's fine. So I know Gamma has that over me, and Gamma is also just like an incredible luck sack. So I was fighting against two fronts.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is Gamma is good. You have to give him a little bit of credit, but that dude is freaking the biggest luck sack ever. So
it's wild because both the two games we played, both basically were decided within like the first 2 minutes. Both because I failed to find the Moon Pearl within the first 2 minutes, which completely messed up my routing for both seeds.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. How long have you been playing Link to the Past in general, besides the randomizer? Were you playing it as a kid? I have no idea how old you are, so I'm just going to assume you're...
I feel like I'm 37, so I figure I'm like in the middle area there, which... Yeah. With most of the community, but I had let's see, I had Link to the Past for my Super Nintendo. I think it was like Christmas like 92 or something like that when I got my Super Nintendo, and I got the one that came packaged with Link to the Past.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was I played a bunch of that. It like would play it over and over and over, and never did anything crazy with it. But yeah, it was a game I went back to a lot when I was younger, for sure.
What other games were you playing?
I was a big Nintendo guy when I was younger. So, we had Mario All-Stars, and in addition to Zelda and a couple of the Star Fox I had on my Super Nintendo. And then it was like a couple of years later, I think a friend down the street had rented. This is how you can also tell I'm a little bit older, because I used to rent games from the video store. Yeah,
I remember that.
Local video store.
Yeah.
I rented Secret of Mana from the video store, and I fell in love with that game, and that kind of like got me into JRPGs, which became like my main gaming diet after that.
Sure. That's a tough one to rent, because you only have it for 3 or 4 days or whatever. And then you guys
I would get you would get like a couple bosses in, and then like hope the next time I rented it that nobody deleted my save file, but they always did.
Right, of course. Totally. Yeah. So that's where your bread and butter is JRPGs?
Yeah, for a long time it was, throughout most of high school and college and stuff. I was a little late to the PlayStation stuff. I had like a Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, and then I kind of switched over. But yeah, I was playing a ton of JRPGs through the PS1, PS2 era. As many as I can get my hands on.
What were some of your favorites?
Xenogears, a lot of the Square stuff. Xenogears, Chrono Cross, obviously all the Final Fantasies, Star Ocean. Trying to think off the top of my head. Xenosaga.
What was it about JRPGs that spoke to you, or that you really enjoyed, or was because it was something that you discovered on the Super Nintendo, but then obviously expanded upon with the PlayStation generation of games?
I liked it at first. I liked it for the story reasons. I just enjoyed I wasn't like a big book reader when I grew up, but so like those were my books when I was growing. Sure. I would like to play through those and get the story on them. I'm also like a very like numbers guy, so like I like fidgety mechanical games and stuff, and min-maxing and all that kind of nonsense. So those kind of games tend to feed that a little bit more. Yeah,
for sure. And I can see how, especially in the PlayStation era, right? Like Nintendo, it feels like some of those RPGs were harder to come by in the States. or weren't as well known.
Sure.
And so with the release of the PlayStation, it felt like there was a lot more accessibility or availability to a lot of those games that we hadn't had in the past.
And then I did go back to a lot of the Super Nintendo ones, on emulator and whatnot, played like the Super Nintendo Final Fantasies, Chrono Trigger, all that kind of stuff afterwards when it became a little more accessible that way.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. What about your parents? Were they cool with you playing? Because I mean, the big thing about those games, when you rent them, you get them for a couple of days, and you're obviously trying to spend as much time as you can because of how large they are and how much time they take. Were your parents cool with you just like playing as much as you could, or was it like you get the weekends? Or
when I was younger, like so when I first got like my gaming systems, my parents were like, it was like I could play 1 hour a day, and I had to ask to play it. Kind of thing, but that was a little more when I was still on like the Nintendo stuff, so it wasn't as huge of an issue. They kind of let off in that probably like once I got to like high school, and there's kind of like whatever. But
did you ever try to make the argument like I'm learning, I'm reading? You know what I mean? Like trying to find
not really. My parents never really like got the video game thing that much. Like they liked it. My mom actually used to play with me. My mom actually beat Link to the Past before I did.
Oh, wow.
And then we used to play like Tetris Attack and stuff like that. But
that's cool.
As I got older, that kind of faded off a little bit. And I feel like I never, I wasn't like super open about. I wasn't talking to them about what video games and stuff I was playing. They just knew it was a thing that I did and was like, okay, whatever.
Right. I feel like I haven't really touched upon this with most guests, but growing up in the area that we did, where you're renting games or you're going to the arcade, it was a different era completely, especially because of games like Mortal Kombat and some of the stuff that was like, I guess, controversial, Resident Evil, that kind of stuff, where it was like pushing the boundaries a little bit. And there was a pushback of like, some parents were like, you can't play video games because they're bad. And then some were like, let's play together. So I am curious on when there's times how parents reacted to that. It's so different now, right? Like,
now nobody cares. It's like whatever. You get 5-year-olds are playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first, what was I would have been like 11 when like Diablo 2 came out. I remember I bought Diablo 2. Which the Walmart employee should not have sold me that game, but they did. And like my mom was like, "What is this? Where did you get?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it." They were at that point they were a little more like lax with the stuff, but it was it's kind of funny thinking back onto that kind of thing.
Totally. I mean, there was definitely like games I was not like allowed to play, but I'd go to my friend's house and turn on the blood for Mortal Kombat on whatever it was. So. Did that continue as you got older, like your love for like JRPGs, or did it expand? Did you get into like more PC gaming, or did you stay with Nintendo?
So I think I said I had the Super Nintendo, I had the N64 and a GameCube, and then I wanted to get a PlayStation 2 because I knew, GameCube, I liked the Nintendo stuff, but there was no JRPGs on GameCube. There was a couple, and people will complain that I say there are none, but I mean, it's like Paper Mario and that's it, because the other ones on there are not that great. Sorry, Bat and Kaitos lovers. But so I ended up selling some of my older Nintendo stuff so I can get a PS2. And then, I played a ton of stuff on that. Played like the Persona games, Dragon Quest games, basically still like Suikoden, anything I could get my hands on. I was like, oh, is this coming out? I'm going to buy it and I'm going to play it. And I had... I had a list at one point of like how many JRPGs I had played through, and it was in the 200, 250, something like that. Yeah, it was wild. Yeah.
So you're not joking when you say that like JRPGs were actually your jam, because it sounds like you played them all.
I played almost nothing but for a very long time. Then eventually it's like towards the end of the PS2 area, when I finally got a 360. And then I started branching out and played in a couple other like action adventure type games, Assassin's Creeds and those kind of things. And then I started finding myself having less time to play JRPGs.
Sure.
So,
as you get older,
I still try to play them occasionally when one that really like catches my interest comes out, but I do not have the time to play through 80-hour games.
I know. I mean, because I was never into JRPGs, but I remember like, especially in my early 20s, I wasn't in school anymore. I was kind of, I was on my own, hanging out with friends, and I just poured hours and hours into like Madden 04.
Yep.
And I'm like, what was I doing? Like, it was definitely fun. I obviously enjoyed it, but like, man, I spent so many hours just playing a fake football game for so long. I could have been way more productive, but that's, hindsight. I wouldn't take it back because I had so much fun, right? Like,
yeah, as long as you're enjoying yourself. Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, oh, video games don't, I could be more productive. I could be doing something, but like, I don't know. Life's short. Enjoy it.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I think I'm looking at it from from an older perspective, where it's like, now I want to do other things.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I spent so many hours.
You have more options in front of you as you get older. It's
for sure.
When you're 16 years old and you don't have a car, it's like, well, what are you doing anyway? You're going to your friend's house and playing Madden or whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah. So, gosh, I mean, I couldn't even name close to 100 JRPGs, but you're playing them all. I just think of how good the PlayStation was for that genre of like, you talk about Nintendo, and now it's a little bit different because you have access to so many different things with Steam and bigger game libraries and stuff. But like, compared to Nintendo, the PlayStation was just booming with JRPGs and just different styles of game that Nintendo didn't really have access to, especially with the GameCube. Comparing it to the GameCube, it's like night and day.
Yeah, the GameCube was unfortunate misstep on Nintendo's part. I mean, there are some good games on the GameCube.
There is, yeah, to
be sure, but yeah, it's just it was unfortunate that the Nintendo path happened to not pick up the kind of games that I was interested in.
Right.
So yeah, I just I would still pick up Nintendo systems for Nintendo games. I still like I've still played all the Zeldas and all the Marios and things like that, but I less of an emphasis on basically non-Mario, non-Zelda Nintendo properties at that point for me.
Yeah. The thing about the JRPGs is how immersive they are, right? Like, you can spend a ton of time. I say this having played, hundreds of hours of Link to the Past now, but it's different, right? Like, you're just story-wise and content-wise, those RPGs are just so much bigger and time-consuming, in a good way. Yeah,
I mean, what is Zelda? What is Link to the Past? I mean, obviously, I go and beat Zelda in an hour and 23 minutes. I can't, but some people can. But
like,
it's like when you were younger, it's like a 10-hour game maybe at most when you were younger playing it for the first time. So compared to like 50 hours for Final Fantasy or whatever. So
yeah, just all the different grinding and things like that. Did you ever get into like MMORPGs or anything like that?
Not until way late. I wanted to. I remember I had some friends in high school who played Ultima Online, and I was like, this is the coolest thing of all time. I wish I could play this, but I did not have a computer with internet access growing up that I could use very frequently. We had internet access in my home, but it was only on my dad's computer, and I would need to ask to use it, and I could occasionally use it. And it was dial up. So if anyone wanted to use the phone, you had to get off the internet and all that stuff. So I really didn't have reasonable internet access till I got to college. And then I did get into, I played World of Warcraft. I played Final Fantasy 11 for a little bit. I played for 14 a decent bit as well. But they're also time sinks, and I think I didn't find them as appealing as the single player RPGs because it was like the MMOs just never end. Where it was like, okay, I can finish a game and move on to another one. It's like a different experience. Whereas it's kind of like this treadmill of never ending content.
Yeah, totally.
It can be nice sometimes, but it starts to feel like a time sink at some point, and not necessarily a fun one.
Yeah, it's a different feeling, right? Like, one of the best parts of finishing a game is the finishing of it, right? Like, it's the sense of accomplishment. Right. It's completing the story, if the story is good, and all those things where it's like, it's nice to have an end.
Yeah, and then you get to move on to something. You get to start something new. You move on to something new, which is always exciting as well.
Or even like revisiting it. It's like I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 like a lot, like too much.
I have seen some of your or heard of some of your exploits in Baldur's Gate 3, yes.
And the game's been out for over a year now, and I've beat it multiple times. But it's like the experience is so good, and I've beat it like 8 or 9 times, and every time it's been different. And I found like I'm still finding like new content, which is just insane.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is wild, like with how much they packed in it. I've played it as well. I haven't finished it yet. I've like been poking at it since it came out every now and then. But it's kind of crazy how much content they crammed into that game.
Like legit, no joke. I've had encounters and dialogue scenes and stuff that I just never experienced in like 6 or 7 other playthroughs. It's just like, how do they keep doing this? But going back to the idea of like having a beginning, a middle, and end, I feel like there's just something way more satisfying. There's an appeal to the online arenas that maybe are more community driven, but sure. I like really having an end to something because it gives it.
It's nice to have the closure and
just, a sense of accomplishment or something. I don't know. It's just something that is a little bit different. So yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I do like to play stuff with my friends, but for like hours and hours and grinding and like all that kind of stuff, just it like wears on me. So it's like I don't know if it's worth it anymore.
I like to play it for this, like because I played Final Fantasy 14. When the new patches came out or new expansion came out, I would play it. I'd play through the story because I wanted to get the story for it, and then I would just kind of stop until the next expansion came out because I didn't care about the loot grind quite as much.
Sure.
And then, they wrapped up their like big main story arc with the last expansion. And then I just kind of I was like, okay, that was, I'm happy with how that ended. And I just kind of stopped playing. It's just,
yeah. I think that's okay. And there's so many games. I don't know how big your Steam library
really are. It's too big. And I probably have a smaller Steam library compared to other people.
Yeah. Mine is like less than 100, but I've barely even touched most of those games. I just own them. I don't.
Yeah, but it's so cheap. You have to buy it. It'd be silly to not buy it.
Right. That's exactly what it is. Like, I bought a Valve pack for like, I don't know, less than $10, and you get like 40 games. It's like, I'm never going to play most of these, but whatever.
Yeah, those Steam sales back in the day were killer. It's just like, oh, $2. I kind of thought about playing this game once. Maybe I'll buy it and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your introduction then to Link to the Past Randomizer? Obviously, you played the game when you were younger, so you had some sort of affinity for it, but what brought you back into this world?
That's a good question, and I can't remember exactly what it was that introduced me to the randomizer existing. I mean, I guess like the obvious answer is like Andy's run at AGDQ the one time. And that may have been it. I don't remember. The first time I remember like really paying attention to Rando though was the 2018 spring main tournament. I think was the one
the 512
where everyone had like a veto and you threw all the modes into a pool or whatever.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yeah. I remember that one. That was the 2018 fall tournament. Yeah.
Was that fall? Okay, yeah. I remember seeing that on the speed gaming channels, and I was going through some rough personal stuff at the time, and it ended up being a pretty good distraction from that. So I was just watching every randomizer match that I could on speed gaming whenever it popped up, and I was always hoping it would be a key sanity mode because I found those ones more interesting than the other ones. But I would still watch all of them. And after that tournament ended, I was like, maybe I'll try this a little bit. And I think I downloaded a couple seeds and played them and then just kind of like set it aside for a couple of years and just kind of didn't. I would still occasionally catch the main tournament matches. And that was kind of it until 2021. I had gotten laid off from my job at the end of the previous year and kind of had a lot of time on my hands. And after a month or two of being unemployed, I was like, I should do something. And I was like, well, maybe I'll take a look into randomizer again. And I've been watching a lot of Willard's stream up until then. And I was in his Discord and chatting about stuff. So I played offline for like a month. I think I just played offline open seeds to practice because I didn't want to jump into anything competitive until I felt like I was at least somewhat competent.
Sure.
So I probably played 20, 30 seeds or something over the course of a month. got to a place where I felt like, all right, well, let's see what happens. Joined my first ladder match in July, I want to say it was July 2021. Got absolutely smoked by about 30 minutes by Tyler Salt. And and yeah, I mean that was, and then from there I just kept playing ladder whenever it would match up with my availability. And then a couple months later, people started talking about League, and I was like, do I want to do this? And some people in Willard's Discord encouraged me, like, yeah, League's fun. You should give it a shot. Just see what happens. So I put my name on the sheet for potential teammates, got contacted by one of my teammates, and then that was off to the races at that point.
Okay, we just fast forwarded to like through 2 years of conversations. We're going to rewind it a little bit.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. There's a lot to cover there. So you're a little bit younger than me, but of a similar age. So how did you even find like Twitch or to watch speedruns? Or I'm guessing you were introduced to GDQ before even the tournaments.
Yeah, I knew about Twitch. Well, I knew about Justin TV.
Okay. Yeah.
I was a big Giant Bomb fan in the early 2010s. For people who don't know, it was a video game review content website for our GameSpot members. And they had done streaming on Justin TV and then Twitch. So that's how I kind of found out about Twitch. And then that kind of led me into hearing about AGDQ. And they're like, oh, this is this. I remember, watching the original first couple of AGDQs where it was just like a couple people in a room. And when were those? Those probably like 2013, 2014, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was part of a couple other video game communities like message boards and whatnot. So I found out about things via those as well. I never really did any streaming myself. It was mostly just watching whenever the big charity events and stuff would come up though.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just trying to think back. Justin TV was interesting because it felt like it was around longer than I even realized. But it's weird because speed gaming is as we've begun to begin to race Link to the Past, you kind of get immersed into the world of speed running just by proxy.
Yeah.
Had you ever done or thought about doing any speed running before that?
There was a couple times. So I knew one of my friends on another message board used to be the world record holder for Metroid Zero Mission. So I kind of knew about speed running, and we had talked about it. And I was like, maybe I should, maybe that's something I want to dip my toes into. And I thought about a couple games that I might want to do it for. But at the end of the day, I don't have the desire to play the same. Which is, it's going to be a funny thing to say considering how much randomizer I play. I don't necessarily have the desire to play the same game over and over and over again ad nauseum, trying to get slightly better at it. A couple of years down the line, I was like, let me try doing the Link to the Past NMG thing just to see. And I was horrendous at it. So I just said, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It is different. It's it's just a different mindset. Like the appeal of randomizer is that it's different every time, right?
Right. That's why I can get away with playing that over and over again versus grinding NMG, doing things over and over again. That was just the thing for me in video games or life in general. Video games that you die, the checkpoint sets you back 15 minutes. I don't want to do this stuff again. I just did this stuff. I don't want to have to do it over and over and over again. I just don't have the patience for that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I tried it. It's just not for me either. It's tough.
Yeah. And nothing against the people who like it. It's fun to watch. Sure. I love watching people play it. I don't have that fortitude.
Yeah, I love watching GDQs. It's fun watching people be really good at the game. I just can't. That grind mentality, I just do not have. So it's tough.
Same.
Okay, so you start playing offline. What do you remember? The resources you used? Being a part of Willard's Discord, I imagine was pretty helpful, right?
Yeah, if I had questions, I would. People would be happy to answer. I didn't really I would just download seeds from the main, ALTTPR site and go at it. I didn't have anyone mentor me or do anything. I just took the, what I had seen because I had watched so much Rando prior to starting to play it.
Right.
I just used what I learned by watching to start, and then, would pick up things over time at that. I didn't know all the little execution.
Sure.
bits and bobs and stuff like that. But I knew where all the chests were, and I knew like generally how people routed most dungeons and stuff like that. So I took what I had and gave it a shot.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have like a mentor tournament, something prior to that, but I had like just missed that year's mentor tournament when I started playing without realizing it existed.
So many different people that were on the show are like, man, I wanted to join the mentor tournament, but I just started playing right after they started it. Yeah.
I didn't know it existed until like a month later after I started playing. I was like, oh, that would have been helpful. But I was like, no, I'll just throw myself into the fire and see what happens.
Yeah, that works. So you said you started in 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what took 3 years for you to actually start playing the game? Because if you started watching around 2018, with 2019, and then especially with 2020, when we had a big influx of runners because of the pandemic, what was the delay of saying, let me try this out?
So I was getting I guess this is probably a big thing that I forgot to mention. So I used to play Magic the Gathering. This is also a common story, I'm sure, against a lot of people. I used to play a bunch of Magic the Gathering, and I was playing that fairly competitively, especially in that time span from 2018 to like 2020, up until COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was traveling a lot doing that, and that was kind of my competitive outlet until Rando, and then COVID kind of ruined everything there. And it made it a lot harder to travel and events shut down. So I just kind of chilled that year. But then I think I was kind of looking for another competitive outlet afterwards, which brought me back to Rando.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. So were you doing like the PTQ grind? Were you playing like Star City games?
Yeah, anything that was local. So I'm in upstate New York, and basically anything that was within a 3 or 4 hour drive. So I would do anything in Boston, Buffalo, New York City, Montreal, and anything that would come nearby, I would usually try to hit up. And I had like a reasonable amount of success. I did play in one pro tour.
Which one?
Barcelona.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun trip.
Which set was that?
It was when it was right after Modern Horizons 1 came out.
Oh, okay.
So I played in the GP over there, and had a couple other like cash finishes and GPs around then. And then it all blew up, and I was like right when I was like starting to have some success on it, and then it just like all went down the drain, which is a bummer because I was traveling a lot during that time period too. I was single at the time and had money, and I was like, I want to go places. So I had like a friend who was like teaching English in Korea. So I went to go visit him in Seoul, and I went to Australia. Wow. And so I was doing a bunch of stuff in that like between 2018 and 2021 period.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you still play Magic?
Casually, yes. I don't do it tournament wise anymore. I don't have I just don't have it for there anymore. I still have like friends over weekly, and we play like a weekly casual game, but other than that, that's really about the extent of it.
Yeah. I mean, COVID definitely changed Magic, right? It's called Magic the Gathering for a reason. And if you can't gather, and then like the death of the GPs and what they did with the Pro Tour and all those different things, really changed just everything.
I did try to going. Once things started back up, I did try going to 1 or 2 events. I found myself not really like having that much fun at them the way I used to. I'm not sure what it was necessarily, but it wasn't the same experience that it was pre-COVID, which is, unfortunate, but that's how things go sometimes.
Yeah. Were you trying to do it for a living? Because there's people that were, grinding and trying to do it to make money, but it's
no, it was a hobby for me. I had no like aspirations to be like on the gravy train or anything like that. That wasn't my goal. My goal is to just like play, maybe make a pro tour or 2 just for fun, and then see what happens. Which I got to do, and that might be part of the reason I kind of fell off it a little bit too, because like I had done what I wanted to do with it. I had gotten that pro tour invite, got to play in it, cashed in a couple events, and felt like I had reached the apex of my ability given how much effort I was willing to put into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Is there any featured matches with you that are out there on YouTube or Twitch that we could see?
I don't think so.
Mm.
Nothing. I did very poorly at the Pro Tour I went to, so I didn't have any feature matches there. And then I didn't get any in. I think I top 16th the GP that was there as well, but I didn't get any feature matches in that one. So the only recorded match I have, I don't think it exists anymore, was the finals of the PPT or the PTQ that I won to get in my Pro Tour invite. But that was like from a local store or something. I don't think that exists online anywhere.
Sure. Well, tell me about the Pro Tour experience a little bit. Like, you're amongst the best in the game. Did you have a team to practice with?
No.
It was just you, so it was like,
it was pretty much me. I would play test with like some local folks and stuff, but like there was no like real team around. I was the only one, to go to that Pro Tour from our group, so it was mostly just like a solo thing.
Was it lonely then? I mean,
I had a friend travel with me.
Okay.
And I knew some other people who were there. Like I had run into people that I had seen at like other GPs and things like that. So it wasn't super lonely, but I did have one of my friends who was a judge for Magic at the time. He was like, "Hey, you want someone to come with you to Barcelona?" I was like, "Sure, you want to come?" He's like, "Yeah, I could probably do that." So he ended up coming over and playing in the GP and hanging out. So that was nice.
Yeah.
But no, it was an interesting experience. It went by real fast. It was slightly disappointing because I did so poorly at the Pro Tour, and I thought I was positioned to do like okay. I didn't have any delusions of like winning it or anything like that.
Sure.
But I thought the deck I was playing was like positioned to do pretty well in the meta, and I kind of got a little unlucky, and my draft went real poorly, and it just kind of all fell apart. But I was still happy to have the experience, and you still get paid even if you don't do well. So it was okay either way.
No, that's really, really cool. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Magic. I love Magic. There was like a small, tiny period of time where I was like, went to a couple of like PTQs, but I know that I'm just was never good enough. I went to a couple GPs as well, but yeah, it's fun. It can be fun.
Yeah, I do miss what I remember it being, which is different in my memory than I think it is now. But yeah, at the time, it was. I used to love going to GPs and playing side events and stuff and browsing vendors and picking up cards for my deck and stuff like that.
What's weird is the game is made over in Renton, Washington, where I'm close to, but most of the GPs and all of the big events that were going on, this is all pre-COVID, was all in like the West Coast and in the South. So it feels like we didn't get like most of the Star City games was over on the East Coast.
Yeah,
they never came over here.
I was pretty lucky with my location as far as like events goes, because we used to have it felt like every month there was like a drivable, if not like twice a month, a drivable event between GPs or SCGs or whatever in the area, because SCG used to do a ton of stuff in like Syracuse and in the Boston area and a couple other around here, so it was nice to have access to all those.
Okay, so that fills in a big gap of understanding why you weren't joining Rando. I didn't realize. That's super cool. So 2021, you dive in, you're playing just offline, you join the ladder, Tyler Salt kicks your butt. What makes you stick with it? What is it about Rando that you liked, and were you able to find a people or community that you enjoyed and as you began to grow with the game? Yeah,
I mean, it's just, I liked the fact that it's different every time. It's like a new puzzle to solve every time you start up a seed, and that is, that's something that I like. And early on, I was like, okay, well, I want to keep playing because I want to get better, right? I had told myself, oh, it would be fun to make the main tournament, right? Like maybe I can make the main tournament. That might be fun because I had been watching it for so many years and was like, oh, being able to play in one, that would be neat. So that was my initial aspiration, was to just get good enough to maybe qualify for a main tournament. And then I had I was hanging in Willard's Discord a lot and became friends with a lot of the folks that hang out there. That's kind of like I kind of stayed there early on. I didn't really branch out to a lot of the community early on. I feel like I'm going to say, I'd say I was hidden, but like I had a pretty low profile for the first couple of years of myself playing.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah.
Most people probably didn't recognize the name until like maybe a year or two ago. But that's just kind of how I am in general anyway. Like I'm not like super extroverted or outgoing or anything. I tend to be very introverted anyway and wait for people to come to me than the other way around. So
yeah, that makes sense. Did you qualify for the main tournament in 2021 or did you attempt to qualify for that first year?
I didn't have I didn't start playing until after the main tournament had started that year.
Okay.
So so that's why League ended up being my first like big tournament. Because you didn't need to qualify for League. All you needed to do was find 2 other people to play with you.
Sure. So you did find a couple of guys to join you. It looks like Mike and Kopi and Talon.
Yep.
You guys were Sahas kids in your first season. How did that happen? And kind of tell me about your experience in the league. It looks like you guys were in the open that first year.
Yes, I think so. I put my name on the spreadsheet. And I gave myself a quick description, and I think Pi was the initial person that reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, we have 2 people. Are you interested in joining a team?" And I was like, "Sure, okay." I don't know anybody else, so let's go for it. So yeah, we chatted and came up with the team and tried to figure out where strengths lied. Pi and Talon had both been playing a little bit longer than me. I think they had both played in like the Challenge Cup the previous year, and I was the newbie there, so I kind of got some of the more baby modes that year. But except for cross keys, I was like, all right, I'll be the one to learn cross keys, despite having only played for a couple months, which was a little rough, but it's somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up I think we ended up doing okay that year. I think we were like 8-6, something like that. I mean, no thanks to me. I think my record was pretty bad that year.
Yeah, I'm looking at you guys are 8-6, you were 2-4, but it's you'd only been playing for a couple of months, right?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with finishing with a positive record overall. So I was, can't complain too much about that. And it was fun, the modes were fun. It was very low pressure, just being new and getting to experience playing co-op for the first time and all these other things. So it was the first league year was a good experience for sure.
Well, it feels like it must have worked out because you've been teaming with these guys for a few years now. So you were together with season 5 and in season 6. And not only in that, it looks like you guys qualified for the invitational season.
Yeah. So season 4 was our first season. And then season 5, we once again went 8-6 in the group stage and managed to sneak into the brackets via a wild card, and then just kind of ran through brackets to the semifinals, and got a invitational slot the following year, which was a surprise, but it was exciting. I was like, at that point I had started, getting a little bit better at playing the game. I had made the main tournament the previous year and was like, I feel like I belong in invitational. Like I think I can hang here. And then the year we were invitational was miserable.
Was it miserable because your record, or was it other factors?
There was a lot of things. I know some other teammates had some personal stuff going on that year, and there was a lot of pressure that I put on myself. It's like, okay, I'm invitational now. Don't blow it. Don't get relegated, don't screw this up. And it was just, and as we kept losing matches, it just became more and more stressful to the point where it was just not really that much fun anymore. And that's my fault partially for putting those expectations on myself.
Sure. I mean, it's hard because you're quote unquote stepping up in competition. And it's true. There's some better runners in the invitational, but the expectations that you place on yourself, I think, can almost affect how you play or affect how things go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it was, that was probably the least favorite of league seasons that I have played, of the 3 that I've played. And then this year, we did end up breaking up the band. I just didn't want to play League this year. And,
sure.
I do think Pi and Talon both found alternate teams, so I think they are playing. But I was not. It was a couple things between playing in main tournament for so long and not being super thrilled with the mode choices and stuff. I was just like, I kind of want to take a break this year, so I decided to bow out of that one.
So Saha's kids are dead.
They're dead. They're gone. Yes.
Okay. And Gylgamesh, you're out of season 7. So no,
I did
no
not fill out a form, so if I end up in one of the teams on season 7, I will be surprised.
Yeah. And it makes sense coming off of the main tournament. When if you play in, let's just say the group stages of the main tournament, you can have a great time even if you lose, because it's like a short few weeks of playing. But when you get into deep the finals,
it goes on for a long time.
It goes on for a real long time. Yeah,
scheduling matches can be a headache, and most of my opponents were pretty good about scheduling in main tournament, but it's still, it's like, okay, well, we have to figure out where our times line up and, make sure that we can get these done in a week. And trying to do that with co-op is even more daunting. And with 4 weeks being co-op this year, it's just like, I didn't want to deal with the headache of trying to schedule that.
Yeah. So you said your goal when you first started was to qualify for the main tournament, and you did that in your first attempt, right? That was 2022.
Yes.
And did you made brackets that year too?
I did, yes. So not only did I qualify, I made brackets that year.
So it feels like you're like you came in and just started doing what you wanted to do, right? I think that's pretty awesome.
I started hot, and it was like it felt pretty good at the time. I think I went 4-2 in my group the first year, losing to Humbug, my 2 losses there. So no shame in that.
Right.
And then ended up getting paired up against John Snoo in the first round of brackets, which I was like, oh, this is an exciting match because we're both pretty new and we're both like, up and comers, and we'll see who comes out of it. And turns out it was John, but it was a close. Sure. It was a close 3-game series, and I felt pretty good about that experience. Then I think I played in the Cross Keys tournament that year as well. Did fairly well in that one. You may be familiar with that Cross Keys tournament, perhaps.
I am familiar with that one. Yeah, I sure am, because you and I, not only did we get to play, we got to play twice.
I do still tell the story sometimes of the time I beat fearagent by 2 seconds, but still lost.
That was a crazy match because I don't think I ever found the boots in that seed.
I don't even remember. I'll tell you, I don't remember much about that seed other than seeing the finishes right after each other. Yeah,
that was the thing that I remembered. It was like I was so close and I didn't find the boots, and I was like, how was this even close? It was one of those moments like.
I remember the one afterwards that I lost more because I remember losing because I never went back to check hookshot cave after I found the hookshot and get my pod big. I still remember that.
I don't remember that one. It's the ones that you lose almost that always stick with you more. That's pretty funny. Yeah, that was because I think we had to play twice because it was the final round, right?
It was, yes. So it was for who would ever go into the playoff race.
Yeah.
So we had to play the second game to determine who would make it. Then they changed the rule after that they didn't do a re-race if it was 3 seconds anymore.
Oh man. Oh boy. Yeah, I think that might have been our only time playing, because you've come in
once on ladder as well.
Yeah, it's hard to remember.
But yeah, that is hard to remember that.
Yeah, that was my first like real introduction to you, is like tying with you and then having to race again. And that's such a stressful. I mean, that race is so stressful anyways, because we're trying to make it into the play-in race.
Yeah. And that was another tournament where I was like, I felt like I was playing with house money there too. Cause I had only been playing the game for like a year at that point, and being 5-2 in the Cross Keys tournament, my first time playing, was like, oh wow! I mean, it would be great to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
this is pretty good still anyway. So
yeah, so you're kind of going into your 4th year of playing the game. How are you feeling about everything? I mean, you're coming off of a huge main tournament run. You're taking a break from league to kind of recharge your batteries, and also because the modes are shitty. But
I didn't say that.
I did. I'll say that. And they kind of screwed everything up, but whatever. So what's the future of Rando for you look like? Do you feel like you're plugged into a community? Are you still hanging out with like the Willard crew, or have you found your own crew? Or I don't know. What does the future look like for you?
I've definitely branched out since then. Yeah, I still chat with Willard's crew and stuff, but I talk a lot to like the AFG group and homemade beer and all those kinds of people.
Okay.
I'm in Gamma's Discord trolling Gamma constantly. So, I've branched out a lot since things started.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, like right in the immediate future, I'm just like, I'll play some ladder and pick up races here and there. But, I'm just taking a slight break for tournaments. I'm not retiring or anything, but, I do also feel like I have a slightly similar feeling with Rando right now that I did with Magic when I made that Pro Tour, where it's like, I know what my limitations are, and I'm never going to be like the execution genius that like the top tier runners are. I know I'm never going to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like I'm mostly maxed out skill. There are things that I can pick up on, but like I'm never going to be the Gamma Chew or like, the person who is the favorite to win a tournament going in.
You're not going to grind to get there, right? Like you're not going to take the time that it needs to be. You play the game because you enjoy it.
Right.
For sure. I get
I'm
that.
I'm happy being a person that's like, if you get paired up against me, you're like, okay, well, I have to take this race seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good enough for me. Like I don't need to be like the number one threat in the tournament. I just want to have a shot in any match, And I feel like I'm at that point. And, I do try to improve, in little ways. I think a lot of what I do is rather than grinding. And I have said this to like, even though I didn't get to play in the mentor tournament, I have mentored for the mentor tournament a number of years. And I always try to impress. It's like, I just, watch better players and like try to pick up one or two things they do in a race. Every time you watch it, watch one particular screen and be like, oh, okay, they're doing this screen this way versus how I do it. And try to remember why what way they do it and why they're doing it that way. And integrate that into your runs. And, it's a slow process, but over time, if you keep chaining all these things together, it will bring your times down because you're, you're improving half a second here, half a second there, and that kind of stuff adds up. So that's kind of how I do my improving rather than sitting there in grinding rooms over and over and over and over again in the practice hack. I've not opened the practice hack in forever.
Sure. But just even the repetition of playing those matches, right? Like the experience gained by playing higher level bracket matches for an extended period of time is just all positive XP. You know what I mean? Like,
and watching back restreams too is a big thing. Like watch, especially against like the really good players, like watch back the restreams and see what they did differently than you or what you could have done better. So
So you can definitely improve without doing the normal speed gaming or speed running grind of just practicing rooms. There's definitely, just playing the game, I think, as long as you have and as much as you have, especially in that short amount of time with like the main tournament, is definitely a big way to gain just experience and getting really good at the game. So does that change your outlook as far as like next year's main tournament and other tournaments? It's like, is brackets, like losing in the third round of brackets next year going to be different, or is it win or bust?
It'll feel bad if I don't do as well since I did this year, but it's hard to improve on the second
it's so
place.
Hard to get back there though. You know what I mean? Like, it's so tough to get back to.
I got, I'm like I said, I'm pretty realistic about knowing where my skill level's at. So I wouldn't, I'm not going to be upset if I don't win the main tournament next year. I would like to do well. I think I would be like, I'd be very disappointed if I didn't at least make brackets.
Yeah.
But my goal, actually, my biggest goal, and this is the thing that drives me nuts, is I can't qualify higher than quarter 3 for some reason. Every year I've qualified in quarter 3. I just want to get in quarter 2 one year. So that's maybe next year. That's my goal.
It's so different though. Qualifiers are so different than the races.
I know.
Right?
I play them so conservatively. So like it's hard for me to like get like super fast times on any of them.
Yeah, that's tough.
And realistically, it doesn't matter, right? Like everyone's so good now that like you're going to getting thrown in a group with 3 other people, regardless of what quartile they end up in. Like it doesn't make a huge difference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're happy with your experiences with Rando, where you're at, and you're not going anywhere. Like taking breaks is one thing, but you're not retiring. You're not.
Yeah, no, I'm not retiring. I'm still planning on playing. I still enjoy the game a ton. I love the people. I got to go to SGL for my first time this past year,
awesome.
Which was awesome. And I plan to go again this year. So looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere, at least not for any length of time.
So what made you want to go to SGL? Just because of all the people and because of all the fun that everyone's having?
Yeah,
and kind of tell me about your experience there.
So I remember the year before I kind of wanted to go, but I had just purchased my house and money was a little tight, and I was like, it's a little sketch. So maybe next year. And I remember, seeing other people post photos and videos and stuff, and I got real bad FOMO about not going that year. So I was like, I'm definitely going the following year. So I got my tickets early and went down there. Roomed with Shinmaru, who I know you are familiar with.
Yeah, good roommate. Good roommate. Yeah. You chose well. Yeah.
Yeah. Played in the Link to the Past, the Rando tourney there. Did some commentary, hung out with some people, walked to sheets multiple times. It was great. It was the complete. After I went, it was the complete opposite of how I felt after like going to Magic tournaments recently, where I was like, afterwards, I was like, I'm done with that. Whereas this one was like, I can't wait to go back again next year.
Yeah. I totally get that. What about your experience playing the game in person? That's like a totally different vibe, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was weird. It felt odd not being in my like home setup that I'm used to when I'm playing. I, had some weird like snafus where I like accidentally turned my head because I had real short headphones, and I remember playing one of my matches and I accidentally like turned my head to look at the tracker and pulled the headphones out of the TV, and I was like fumbling trying to put them back in while also still playing. And there were some like, organizational issues that maybe were not great there, waiting for a long time to get seeds and stuff like that. But
sure. Yeah.
It's tough to run that many tournaments in such a small space. So I get it. But it was fun. It was fun being able to play live and, do the hand raise thing when you finish the seed that you always see on TV. It was I didn't get to do any feature matches, which was a little bit of a bummer. I would have liked to have one of those just to see what it was like, but I guess I didn't do well enough. I think I went 3-2 in my group, so I just missed out on making the playoff race. But I did just as well as Gamachu at SGL this year, so I can't complain.
Good comparison.
Yeah.
So I ask everyone as we end the show, like, how do you deal with tilt? And my feeling of we haven't had a ton of interactions, but my limited interactions and then talking to you here is you're super chill, man. Like, you're just a very chill guy. And I'm wondering, do you get tilted? And then how do you handle the tilt when it happens?
Yeah,
ways of dealing with it?
I get tilted. Like, anyone who says they don't is lying. Like, it's going to happen occasionally. Like, you're going to get upset. I try to just compartmentalize it, and like, at the end of the day, it's just a silly game we're playing on the internet for fun. Like, there's no money involved here. There's no like, nobody's getting any awards for winning a match or anything like that. Your racetime.gg points don't get converted to cash, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So, I like to, when I lose a race and I'm frustrated, I prefer to like analyze what I did and what I could have done better rather than just like whine about it. I'll complain, a lot of the times it's for show too, when I'm like complaining on stream and do poorly, but sure. I'll get pissed, especially if I'm playing poorly and I can tell I'm playing poorly. I do get frustrated at that, but I generally try to like take something from the losses at least and like figure out, okay, like what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And sometimes the answer is like nothing. You just you wrong ordered things and there's really nothing you could have done about it. But losing a race is not the end of the world, and there's a new one to play the next day or the next hour, like if you want. So it doesn't bother me that much, honestly. Yeah, I know some people get real frustrated when they lose, and I just try to let it
roll with the punches
off. If I can. There are bigger things to worry about than losing a rando race.
Sure. I just wonder if some of your Magic experience also plays a part. I mean, that definitely
might
had
help
way
too.
More like a real, there was cash on the line at times. There was things that you're actually playing for. There's integrity of the game. There's a lot more going on. And I wonder if coming from that world helps you put that into perspective.
I do think it helps a little bit. I do think there's some part of it is, and if you've played competitive Magic, I'm sure you know that there are a lot of people in the Magic community who are real salty bastards when they lose.
Yes.
And I think I would like look at that and be like, I don't want to act like that. So I think that's part of it too, where I like seeing what somebody else looks like when they're doing it is like okay, maybe I should just like find a better way to express my frustration.
Yeah.
And, you know, you the way to do it is you go chat with your friends and you say like, oh man, I got boned because Gamachu decided to do this thing and I didn't and whatever. And
right.
You know,
yeah,
you get the sympathy and you talk about it and then, you know, you go to bed and
move on.
Get over it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you just have a healthy approach to it, right? Like, I wish I could say like, it's just let it go. But I'm playing in the season of the league, unfortunately, and I started picking up again because I've been playing since last July, and I did a couple ladder races, and I just get so tilted. Like I last location consistently, and I'm like, why? Like I just can't, and then I just get angry. I'm able to like let it go a lot quicker than I have in the past, but it's just like.
Yeah. But sometimes you get those streaks too, right? You just like, and that's when it gets the most frustrating is where you just get those streaks where you feel like you played like 5 seeds in a row and nothing goes right. And you're just like, when is it gonna turn around? And it does eventually. You just have to fight through
play
it.
Play more. I think that's my problem is I don't play enough.
Yeah. And also like try to figure out why you're sometimes it feels like it's luck. And this is what I try to do is like, okay, well, why did I last location that? You know, like, should I have gone back earlier? Was there something I got that should have said, oh, I should do this? So, you know, I try to make it an educational experience, at least for myself, even when things don't go my way.
Yeah, that's real smart. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate you having.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming here. Yeah.
I know there was a lot of hot demand to have me on the podcast, so
I was rooting for you, man. I was rooting for you in the finals. I was like, I'm going to attempt to talk to whoever wins this tournament. And when it was down to you and Zelga and Gamma, and I was like, I'm going to talk to one of these guys.
Yeah. And you were like, man, I just hope it's not Gamma.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. Please don't be Gamma. I'm always rooting for Zelga. I have for a long time.
I know. I almost felt bad. Like, you know, no one should ever feel bad when they win a race. But like, I was like, man, Zelga's been so close so many times. It feels a little bad to deny him again.
Yeah, but he's got to do it. He's got to find a way to get over that hump. So, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Huge shout outs to Gylgamesh for coming on the show. Really appreciated hearing his story. And I really hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the conversation that we had in the Discord. 216pod.com is the link to our website. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on all platforms. If you could leave a review, that'd be really helpful for me and the show over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those are the two primary listening locations. We're on YouTube as well, so check that out. What else? Yeah, just playing some Rando. Playing more Rando than I've had in a while. Make sure you join the Discord. The link should be in the show notes. And yeah, I just would love to know what you think of the show, and what do you think of the conversations, and who you'd like to see coming up on the show. Next week, we'll have a conversation with Ike here. That was a lot of fun. So I'm excited for everyone to hear that. So come back for that next week. And then things are up in the air. So yeah, let me know who you'd like to hear from. But that's going to do it. Appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.